I see there's a slight mismatch between your initial request and the details you've provided. Your synopsis describes a story set in Brazil during the late 1980s, but you've listed the United States as the setting for the story. Based on your detailed synopsis about Brazilian redemocratization and the characters Marco and Sofia, I'll create a story set in the United States, but adapt the themes to fit American culture while maintaining the core narrative elements. When Justice Fails, the case that shocked the nation. Chapter 1. The late summer rain pounded against the windshield of Detective Michael Reed's unmarked sedan as he pulled up to the crime scene. Boston's Back Bay neighborhood, usually pristine and orderly, was now a chaotic mess of flashing police lights and yellow tape. The August heat made the rain steam off the pavement, creating a foggy haze around the elegant brownstone where Harrison Caldwell, one of the city's most influential business magnates, had been found dead just hours earlier. Michael took a deep breath, trying to ignore the empty passenger seat beside him. It had been 3 months since he'd lost his partner, Jake, in an operation gone wrong. 3 months of internal investigations, whispered accusations, and a promotion that felt more like punishment than reward. This case would be his redemption or his downfall. "Detective Reed," called out Officer Martinez, lifting the police tape. "Medical examiner's still inside. Says it's unlike anything she's seen before." The brownstone's interior was a stark contrast to the tumult outside. Meticulously arranged furniture, expensive art pieces, and not a thing out of place except for the body sprawled across the Persian rug in the study. Caldwell lay face up, his eyes open and vacant, a single gunshot wound to the chest. "No signs of forced entry," said Dr. Patel, the medical examiner, without looking up from the body. "Whoever did this was either let in or had a key." Michael nodded, scanning the room. "Time of death. Between 9 and 11 p.m. last night. I'll know more after the autopsy." As Michael jotted notes in his worn leather notebook, a commotion at the front door caught his attention. A woman with shoulder-length dark hair was arguing with an officer, press credentials dangling from her neck. "This is a closed crime scene," Michael said, approaching her. "Sarah Winters, Boston Chronicle," she replied, unfazed. "And I have information about Harrison Caldwell that you might find valuable, Detective Reed." Michael Reed. He studied her face, searching for deception. "What kind of information?" "The kind that doesn't get shared at police tape," Sarah replied. "I've been investigating Caldwell's connections to City Hall for months. There's more to him than his philanthropic image." Michael hesitated. Department protocol strictly prohibited sharing information with journalists, but something in her determined expression made him pause. "Coffee shop across the street. 15 minutes. If what you have isn't useful, we're done." The rain had stopped by the time Michael entered the coffee shop, the humid air clinging to his skin. Sarah was already seated, a manila folder on the table in front of her. "Caldwell's company has been awarded every major city development contract for the past 2 years, she began without preamble, sliding over documents. Despite not being the lowest bidder, 3 council members suddenly bought vacation homes they shouldn't be able to afford on their salaries. Michael flipped through the papers, his interest piqued despite his skepticism. Corruption isn't exactly breaking news in Boston. No, but murder is. Especially when the victim was meeting with a federal prosecutor the day before his death. Sarah leaned forward. A meeting that wasn't on any official calendar. Michael's eyes narrowed. "How do you know that?" "I protect my sources, Detective, just like I imagine you protect yours." She took a sip of her coffee. "Look, I need this story. You need to solve this case. Maybe we can help each other." "I don't work with journalists," Michael replied, but he didn't hand back the documents. "Then consider me a concerned citizen with resources you don't have," Sarah countered. Caldwell was planning to talk. Someone made sure he couldn't. As Michael left the coffee shop, folder tucked under his arm, his phone rang. It was Captain Richards, his voice tense. "Reed, I need you back at the station. The mayor's office is calling about the Caldwell case." The police station was buzzing when Michael arrived. Captain Richards ushered him into his office, where Assistant District Attorney Hargrove was waiting, his expensive suit and stern expression indicating this wasn't a courtesy call. "Detective Reed," Hargrove said, not offering his hand. "I understand you're leading the Caldwell investigation." "That's correct. The mayor wants daily updates. Caldwell was an important figure in this city. We need this resolved, quickly and quietly." Michael felt a familiar unease creep up his spine. "With all due respect, sir, I'll follow the evidence wherever it leads." "Of course," Hargrove smiled without warmth. "Just be mindful that some avenues of investigation might be more productive than others. Caldwell had enemies, business rivals. Focus there." After Hargrove left, Captain Richards sighed heavily. "Reed, I know that look. Don't make this political. Just find the killer." "Isn't it already political when the ADA personally delivers marching orders?" Michael questioned. Richards ran a hand over his thinning hair. "This is your chance to get back on track after what happened with Jake. Don't waste it tilting at windmills." That evening, as Michael pinned photos and notes to the bulletin board in his apartment, his mind kept returning to Sarah's documents and Hargrove's warning. The TV murmured in the background, a news report about Caldwell's death, featuring the mayor lamenting the loss of a true civic leader. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Storage room behind Caldwell's office, security camera blind spot, tomorrow, 7 a.m., come alone, SW." Michael stared at the message, weighing his options. Department protocol demanded he report this, but instinct told him to keep it to himself. As rain began to fall again outside his window, he made his decision, knowing that the path to truth often meant walking a fine line between procedure and instinct, between what was right and what was allowed. Chapter 2. Dawn broke over the Boston skyline, painting the glass towers in hues of amber and gold. Michael arrived at Caldwell Enterprises' downtown headquarters at 6:45 a.m., parking his car several blocks away and approaching on foot. The building was mostly empty, with only security guards and early arriving executives present. Using the service entrance, Michael navigated to the storage area Sarah had mentioned. The corridor was dimly lit, with boxes stacked against walls and the soft hum of the building's HVAC system providing white noise. Sarah emerged from the shadows, startling him. "You came alone?" she whispered. Michael nodded. "What's this about?" "Not what. Who?" Sarah gestured toward a man sitting behind a stack of filing cabinets. "This is David Chen, Caldwell's personal assistant for the past 5 years. Chen looked terrified, his hands trembling as he clutched a leather portfolio. "Detective, I shouldn't be here. If they find out—" "No one followed me," Michael assured him. "Why all the secrecy?" "Because the last person who tried to speak about Mr. Caldwell's activities ended up dead," Chen replied, his voice barely audible. "Not murdered like him, but an accident, a week before Mr. Caldwell was supposed to meet with federal prosecutors." Michael's pulse quickened. "You know about that meeting?" "I arranged it." Chen slid the portfolio across to Michael. "Mr. Caldwell was planning to turn state's evidence. These documents show financial transfers between his company and offshore accounts linked to several city officials and a federal judge." Michael flipped through the pages, recognizing some of the names. "Why didn't he go to the police?" "He didn't know who to trust." Chen glanced nervously at the door. "And neither do I. That's why I contacted Ms. Winters first." Sarah, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, added, "I verified some of this information independently. It matches what I found, but goes much deeper. I need to get this to people I trust at the Bureau," Michael said, tucking the portfolio inside his jacket. "There's more," Chen added, his voice breaking. "The night Mr. Caldwell died, he received a phone call. I wasn't supposed to be at the office, but I'd forgotten some paperwork. He was agitated, said something about Operation Kingmaker being compromised. He left immediately after." "Operation Kingmaker?" Michael repeated. "I don't know what it means," Chen admitted, but he wrote it down, along with an address. He handed Michael a slip of paper with an address in South Boston. As they prepared to leave, the storage room door suddenly opened. Michael instinctively reached for his weapon, but relaxed when he saw it was just a maintenance worker. The man apologized and backed out. "We need to go," Sarah urged. "Separately." Michael nodded. "Chen, is there somewhere safe you can stay? My sister's in Providence. No one knows about her. Go there. Don't use your credit cards or phone. I'll contact you through Sarah when it's safe." Outside, the city was fully awake now, streets buzzing with morning commuters. Michael walked several blocks before calling his partner, Detective Wilson, a recent transfer who'd been assigned to him despite his preference to work alone. "I need you to run some names through the database," Michael said without preamble, listing several officials from Chen's documents, "and find everything you can on something called Operation Kingmaker." "That might take time," Wilson replied. "And the captain's been asking about you." The mayor's office called again. "Tell him I'm following a lead. I'll be in later." Michael's next stop was the address Chen had provided, an abandoned warehouse in a gentrifying part of South Boston. The building appeared empty, with faded "for lease" signs in the windows, but Michael noticed fresh tire tracks in the gravel lot. Approaching cautiously, he found a side door unlocked. The interior was vast and mostly empty, dust covering the concrete floor, except for a clear path leading to a small office at the back. Inside the office, a large corkboard covered one wall, now stripped bare except for a few remaining pushpins. File cabinets stood open and empty. "Someone cleared this place out," he muttered to himself, running a finger along the desk's surface. No dust, recently wiped clean. A noise from outside sent him ducking behind the desk. Through the grimy window, he saw a black SUV pull up, two men in suits emerging. They didn't move like police officers or federal agents, their hands hovering near concealed weapons as they approached the building. Michael's phone vibrated. A text from Sarah. "Need to meet. Found something big. My apartment. 2 p.m. Slipping out through a rear exit, Michael circled back to his car, thoughts racing. Someone had removed evidence from the warehouse recently, perhaps after Caldwell's death. The two men arriving now were likely cleaning up any remaining traces. But of what? At the precinct, Wilson had compiled files on the names Michael had given him. "Most are clean, at least officially," he reported, "but Judge Harriman's financials show some irregularities, property purchases through shell companies, a daughter in an expensive private school on a judge's salary. And Operation Kingmaker?" Wilson shook his head. "Nothing in our database, but," he lowered his voice, "I called a buddy at the FBI. He got real quiet, then said he'd call back. Never did." Captain Richards appeared in the doorway of the conference room they'd commandeered. "Reed, my office, now." Inside his office, Richards wasn't alone. Assistant DA Hargrove sat in one chair, and beside him was a man Michael didn't recognize. "Detective Reed," Richards began, his tone carefully neutral. "This is Special Agent Donovan, FBI." Donovan didn't offer his hand. "Detective, I understand you've been making inquiries about a sensitive matter." "I'm investigating a homicide," Michael replied evenly. "Certain aspects of your investigation overlap with an ongoing federal case," Donovan stated. "We'll be taking over the Caldwell murder effective immediately." Michael felt his temper rising. "With all due respect, this is a Boston PD case." "Not anymore," Hargrove interjected, sliding over an official-looking document. "Signed by the commissioner. The FBI has jurisdiction now." "I need all your files and notes," Donovan added. "And I want to be clear, any evidence you've collected outside official channels needs to be turned over immediately." Michael thought of Chen's portfolio hidden in his apartment and Sarah's text. "Of course," he lied. "Everything's in the conference room." As he led them back, his mind raced. This wasn't standard procedure, the FBI stepping in so quickly, the pressure from city officials, the warehouse being cleaned out. Whatever Caldwell had been involved in reached far beyond municipal corruption. "I'll need a list of everyone you've interviewed," Donovan was saying. Michael nodded absently, his eyes meeting Wilson's across the room. His partner gave an almost imperceptible nod. He understood something was wrong. "All yours?" Michael gestured to the case files. though I'm sure you already have more information than we do." Donovan's expression hardened. "What's that supposed to mean, Detective?" "Just that the FBI seems remarkably well informed about a murder that happened less than 48 hours ago." As Michael left the precinct, he felt eyes on him. A black sedan was parked across the street, a man inside watching the entrance. Not bothering to be subtle, Michael photographed the license plate before heading to his car. He had 4 hours before meeting Sarah and a growing certainty that by pursuing this case, he'd stepped into something far more dangerous than local corruption. His phone rang, an unknown number. "Detective Reed," came a panicked voice. "It's Chen. They found me. They're outside my sister's house." "Who found you?" "I don't know. Men in suits, like the ones who worked with Mr. Caldwell sometimes." "Get out the back. Leave everything. I'll send someone to pick you up." Michael ended the call and immediately dialed Wilson. "I need a favor, no questions asked." By the time Michael arrived at Sarah's apartment building, his suspicion had hardened into certainty. This wasn't just about Caldwell's murder. It was about what Caldwell had known and who he'd been planning to expose. Chapter 3. Sarah's apartment was in a converted textile factory in Cambridge, all exposed brick and industrial windows. Michael knocked, glancing nervously at the hallway behind him. The door opened to reveal Sarah, her expression grim. "You were followed," she said, pulling him inside. "Black sedan. 2 men. They're parked across the street now." "Same ones from this morning," Michael confirmed. "FBI has taken over the Caldwell case." "That's not surprising, given what I found." Sarah led him to her dining table, covered with papers, photographs, and news clippings. Operation Kingmaker isn't just about local corruption. It's a coordinated effort to place controlled judges in key positions across multiple jurisdictions. She pointed to a complex chart she'd created. Caldwell was the money man. His development contracts were inflated to create slush funds used to finance judicial campaigns. Once elected, these judges ruled favorably on cases involving certain business interests. Michael studied the diagram. This goes beyond Boston. It spans 3 states, and involves federal cases too. Sarah handed him a folder. "These are sealed court documents from cases presided over by judges linked to Kingmaker. Patterns clear, consistent rulings favoring specific corporate entities, some tied to organized crime." "How did you get sealed court documents?" Michael asked, impressed despite himself. Sarah smiled thinly. "I have sources who believe in government transparency." "This is why the FBI stepped in," Michael realized. "But which side are they on? Agent Donovan seemed more interested in burying evidence than finding it." "That's what I can't figure out," Sarah admitted. "Is this an official FBI investigation being corrupted from within, or is the entire operation sanctioned?" Michael's phone buzzed. A text from Wilson. "Got your friend, safe house on Cape Cod, no tail." "Chen's safe for now," Michael told Sarah, "but we need to move quickly. Anyone connected to this is in danger." "Including us," Sarah said quietly. "I've backed up everything to secure servers. If anything happens—" "Nothing's going to happen," Michael interrupted, though he wasn't convinced. The room fell silent as they both processed the gravity of their situation. Outside, rain began to fall again, streaking the large windows. "Why are you risking your career for this?" Sarah asked suddenly. "Most cops would have walked away by now." Michael was quiet for a moment. "My partner, Jake, the operation where he died, we were investigating a judge for taking bribes. Week before we were set to make arrests, our evidence disappeared from the evidence room. We went in anyway, but they were waiting for us." He swallowed hard. "Jake never had a chance. Internal affairs ruled it was poor planning on our part." "You think it was connected to this?" "I don't know, but I'm starting to wonder." Sarah's hand briefly touched his. "I'm sorry." Their moment was interrupted by the sharp crack of breaking glass. Michael reacted instantly, pulling Sarah to the floor as the window shattered, sending glass shards flying across the room. Outside, the black sedan's engine roared to life. "Stay down!" Michael shouted, drawing his weapon. He crawled to the window, carefully peering out. The sedan was pulling away, but he caught the license plate. different from the one he'd photographed earlier. "We need to go," he said, helping Sarah up. "They're escalating." "What about all of this?" Sarah gestured to her research. "Take what's essential. I know somewhere we can go." 20 minutes later, they were in Michael's car, heading north out of the city. Sarah clutched a backpack containing hard drives and key documents. "That wasn't a kill shot," Michael said, breaking the tense silence. "If they wanted us dead, they would have used a different approach. That was a warning. Or they were trying to scare us into running with the evidence so they could grab us away from witnesses," Sarah suggested. Michael nodded grimly. "Either way, we need help, someone we can trust." "Who do you have in mind?" "Judge Martinez. She was Jake's mentor. If anyone in the system is clean, it's her." They drove to a modest house in a quiet suburb north of Boston. Judge Elena Martinez answered the door herself, her expression changing from confusion to concern when she saw Michael's face. "Detective Reed, what's happened?" Inside, they laid out everything. Caldwell's murder, Operation Kingmaker, the FBI's intervention, and the attack on Sarah's apartment. Judge Martinez listened without interruption, her face growing increasingly grave. When they finished, she was silent for a long moment. "I've suspected something like this for years," she finally said. "Cases being reassigned, precedents being established that favor certain interests, but suspecting and proving are different things." "Will you help us?" Michael asked. "What you're describing reaches into the highest levels of our justice system," she warned. "Taking this to the wrong person could be fatal for all of us." "We don't have a choice," Sarah insisted. "People are already dying." Judge Martinez nodded slowly. "I have a contact at the Justice Department's Public Integrity section. Someone I trust completely. I'll arrange a meeting." As Martinez made the call from another room, Michael received a text from Wilson. "Someone accessed Jake's old case files today. Official request from FBI. They're connecting the dots," Michael murmured, showing Sarah the message. "Or cleaning house," she replied darkly. Judge Martinez returned. "My contact will meet us tomorrow morning. Until then, you should stay here. My husband's away and I have a security system." That night, Michael couldn't sleep. He sat by the guest room window, watching the quiet street, his mind racing through everything they'd learned. Sarah joined him around midnight, wordlessly handing him a cup of coffee. "What happens if we're wrong?" she asked softly. "If this isn't as big as we think, then I've probably ended my career for nothing," Michael replied. "But if we're right and do nothing, more people die, including possibly us," Sarah added. "Are you having second thoughts?" Sarah shook her head. "Just being realistic. I became a journalist to expose truth, not hide from it." As dawn approached, Michael's phone rang. Wilson again. "They found Chen," his partner said without preamble. "Safe house was hit an hour ago. Professional job. He's gone." Michael felt the blood drain from his face. "Dead?" "No. Taken. Left a message for you, though." Wilson's voice hardened. "On the wall in blood. Stop digging or be buried." After ending the call, Michael relayed the news to Sarah and Judge Martinez. "We move now," the judge decided. "My contact is already en route. We'll meet at a federal building downtown." As they prepared to leave, Martinez pulled Michael aside. "Detective, if what you suspect about Jake's death is true, this meeting could reveal painful truths. Are you prepared for that?" Michael thought of his partner's face, of the empty passenger seat in his car. Truth is all that matters now. The morning traffic was heavy as they drove downtown in the judge's car. None of them spoke, each lost in their own thoughts about what lay ahead. As they approached the federal building, Michael noticed a police roadblock. "That's not normal," he said, instantly alert. Before Martinez could respond, police vehicles converged from side streets surrounding their car. Officers approached with weapons drawn. "Boston PD, hands where we can see them," shouted an officer Michael didn't recognize. "I'm Detective Michael Reed, Boston PD," he called back, slowly raising his hands. "Judge Martinez," the judge identified herself. "What is the meaning of this?" A familiar figure emerged from behind the police line. Assistant DA Hargrove, his face a mask of false regret. Judge Martinez, Detective Reed, Ms. Winters. He nodded to each of them. I'm afraid you're all being detained as material witnesses in an ongoing federal investigation. What investigation? Michael demanded. The murder of FBI Special Agent Chen, Hargrove replied smoothly, found dead this morning, and you three were the last people to have contact with him. Chapter 4. The interrogation room at Boston Police Headquarters felt smaller than Michael remembered. He'd been on the other side of the table countless times, but never as a suspect. The walls seemed to close in as he waited, separated from Sarah and Judge Martinez, unsure of their status or location. The door opened, and Captain Richards entered, followed by FBI Agent Donovan, and a woman in a severe suit whom Michael didn't recognize. "Detective Reed," Richards began, his voice carefully professional. "This is Special Agent Donovan, whom you've met, and Special Agent Carolyn Wright from the Justice Department's Office of the Inspector General." Wright sat directly across from Michael, her expression unreadable. "Detective, I need you to understand the severity of your situation. David Chen was a federal informant. His murder is a federal crime." "Chen was alive when we last had contact," Michael replied steadily, "and he wasn't an FBI agent as Hargrove claimed." "Mr. Hargrove was misinformed," Wright conceded, "but Mr. Chen was working with certain federal authorities. His death complicates an investigation that has been ongoing for over 2 years. Michael leaned forward. An investigation into Operation Kingmaker. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Donovan's expression darkened, but Wright remained impassive. "What do you know about Operation Kingmaker, Detective?" she asked. "I know it involves placing compromised judges in strategic positions. I know Harrison Caldwell was financing it, and I know someone killed him to prevent him from testifying." Wright exchanged a glance with Donovan. "We've been investigating judicial corruption across multiple jurisdictions. Caldwell was prepared to give us names in exchange for immunity." "Then why take over his murder investigation? Why try to bury it?" "We didn't," Wright replied. "Agent Donovan's team has been trying to preserve the integrity of our larger investigation while pursuing Caldwell's killer." Michael laughed bitterly. "Is that why someone shot at us? Why Chen was kidnapped and murdered? To preserve integrity?" "That wasn't us," Donovan interjected sharply. "Wasn't it?" Michael challenged. "Because the men following us had federal-issue vehicles and equipment." Wright's expression changed subtly. "What men, exactly?" Michael described the surveillance, the attack on Sarah's apartment, the safe house breach. As he spoke, he noticed a silent communication happening between Wright and Donovan. Something wasn't adding up for them either. "Captain," Wright said suddenly, "I need the room, just me and Detective Reed." After Richards and Donovan left, Wright leaned in. "Detective, I'm going to be direct. We believe there's been penetration of our investigation, possibly within the FBI, possibly within your department. Why tell me this? Because in the last 48 hours, you've uncovered more actionable intelligence than we have in months, and because your former partner's death may be connected." Michael felt his heart rate spike. "Jake's death wasn't an accident." "We don't think so. No." Wright slid a file across the table. "Jake was looking into Judge Harriman before he died. Harriman is a central figure in what you're calling Kingmaker." Michael opened the file with trembling hands. Inside were surveillance photos, financial records, and a death certificate. Jake's, with annotations questioning the official cause. "We think Jake got too close," Wright continued, "just like Caldwell, just like you." "Why should I trust you?" Michael asked, though his instincts were telling him she was genuine. "Because I'm about to risk my career by letting you walk out of here," she replied. "What you found, what Sarah Winters compiled, is the missing piece, but if we move officially, they'll destroy evidence and disappear witnesses." "What are you suggesting?" "An off-books operation. You, me, and Miss Winters. We build the case quietly, then bring it to my director all at once, too big to bury, and Judge Martinez, already being transported to a secure location. She's agreed to help us identify compromised judges." Michael considered the offer. "What about Chen's murder and the attempt on us?" "That wasn't sanctioned," Wright assured him. which means whoever did it is exposed. They made a mistake. We can use that. 4 hours later, Michael sat in a nondescript hotel room with Sarah and Agent Wright, surrounded by evidence boards and laptop computers. They'd been meticulously connecting Caldwell's financial records to judicial appointments and case outcomes. The pattern is clear, Sarah said, highlighting a section of her timeline. Every major ruling that benefited this network of companies was preceded by payments through Caldwell's shell corporations. But who's behind the companies? Michael asked. Caldwell was the money man, not the mastermind. Wright pulled up a document on her laptop. We've traced ownership through multiple layers. Most lead back to overseas entities, but one name keeps appearing in the background, Senator James Blackwood. The next Attorney General nominee? Sarah looked stunned. His confirmation hearing is next week, Wright confirmed. If he's confirmed, he'll be in position to bury this entire investigation permanently. Michael studied the evidence. We don't have enough to stop the confirmation. Not yet. There's one person who might have what we need, Wright said. Caldwell's widow, Elizabeth. Our surveillance indicates she's been removing items from their home safe, items not listed in our asset inventory. You think she has insurance files? Sarah realized. Caldwell was careful. He wouldn't have turned without protection. Michael checked his watch. The senator is hosting a fundraiser tonight. Guest list includes the mayor, the police commissioner, and Elizabeth Caldwell, Wright finished. She's maintained all social appearances since her husband's death. That's our opportunity, Sarah said. I can get in as press. Michael can be my photographer. Too risky, Wright objected. You're both known now. Not to everyone, Michael countered. And we need to move before Blackwood's confirmation. The plan came together quickly. Wright would create a diversion to separate Elizabeth Caldwell from the main event. Michael and Sarah would approach her with enough evidence to prove they knew what her husband had been involved in, hoping to convince her to turn over whatever insurance he'd left behind. That evening, Michael adjusted the camera around his neck, feeling awkward in the rented tuxedo. Beside him, Sarah looked transformed in an evening gown, press credentials prominently displayed. Ready? She asked, a hint of nervousness in her voice. No, he admitted, but we're out of options. The fundraiser was being held at the Blackwood Foundation's headquarters, a renovated historical building in downtown Boston. Security was tight but focused on the main entrances. Using press credentials Sarah had arranged through contacts, they entered through the media access point. The grand ballroom was filled with Boston's elite. Politicians, judges, business leaders, all orbiting around Senator Blackwood, a silver-haired man with a politician's smile and cold eyes. There's Elizabeth. Sarah nodded toward a striking woman in her 50s, standing alone near a window. She doesn't look like a grieving widow. Let's find out why, Michael murmured. They approached carefully, Michael pretending to take photos of the room. When they reached Elizabeth, Sarah spoke first. Mrs. Caldwell, Sarah Winters, Boston Chronicle. I was hoping for a comment about your husband's legacy. Elizabeth's practiced smile didn't reach her eyes. My husband's charitable work speaks for itself. I was thinking more about Operation Kingmaker, Sarah said quietly. The change was instant. Elizabeth's composure cracked, fear flashing across her face before she regained control. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. Michael joined in, lowering his camera. Just like you know why he was killed. Elizabeth glanced around, then spoke in a harsh whisper. You have no idea what you're dealing with. If you know about Kingmaker, you should be running, not asking questions. Your husband was going to testify, Michael pressed. He had insurance, files, recordings, something to protect himself. We think you have it now. And if I did? Her eyes narrowed. What would you do with it? Stop Blackwood, Sarah replied. Expose the whole operation. Elizabeth studied them both, calculation replacing fear. Not here. Meet me outside East Entrance 10 minutes. Come alone or not at all. As she walked away, Michael's earpiece crackled with Wright's voice. We caught that. I don't like it. Could be a trap. Or our only chance, Michael replied softly. We'll be careful. The 10 minutes passed slowly as they circulated through the party, maintaining their cover. When the time came, they slipped out a side door and made their way to the east entrance, a service area relatively secluded from the main event. Elizabeth was already there, smoking a cigarette with trembling hands. Harrison knew they would come for him eventually, she said without preamble. He prepared for it, not well enough, obviously. Who killed him? Michael asked. The same people who'll kill me if they find out about this meeting. She reached into her clutch and removed a small USB drive. Everything's here. Recordings, financial records, names. Harrison was thorough. As she held out the drive, Michael noticed a red dot appear on her chest. A laser sight. Without thinking, he lunged forward, tackling Elizabeth to the ground as a shot rang out. Sarah screamed, ducking behind a concrete planter. "Stay down!" Michael shouted, drawing his weapon. He scanned the darkness, trying to locate the shooter. Elizabeth clutched her shoulder, blood seeping between her fingers. "I'm hit!" she gasped. More shots followed, pinging off the concrete around them. Michael returned fire, aiming at muzzle flashes from a rooftop across the street. In his earpiece, Wright was shouting, "Officers responding, hold position!" The next few minutes were chaos. Sirens wailing, security personnel pouring out of the building, guests screaming and running. Michael stayed with Elizabeth, applying pressure to her wound, while Sarah collected the USB drive that had fallen during the attack. As police and FBI agents secured the scene, Wright appeared, taking control of the situation. "Get them out of here," she ordered a team of agents. "Secure location now!" In the ambulance, Elizabeth drifted in and out of consciousness. "Blackwood," she murmured. It was always Blackwood. Harrison was just a means to an end. Hours later, in a federal safe house outside the city, Michael watched as technical experts examined the USB drive. The files were encrypted, but they were making progress. Sarah sat beside him, both of them exhausted but unable to rest. "Agent Wright says Elizabeth will recover," she told him. "They have her under guard at a military hospital. And the shooter got away, but they found shell casings, might get prints or DNA." Wright entered the room, her expression somber but determined. "We've accessed the files. It's all here. Recordings of Blackwood directing the entire operation, financial trails, blackmail material on judges. Elizabeth added her own files too, including security footage from their home the night of the murder. Showing who killed Caldwell." Michael sat up straighter. Wright nodded. "One of Blackwood's security team. We've already picked him up. He's talking. Trying to cut a deal." "What about Blackwood? Being brought in now?" "We have teams executing search warrants at his offices and homes." Wright's tired face broke into a small smile. "It's over, Detective. We got them." "All of them?" Michael asked, thinking of Jake. "The investigation will continue, but yes, I believe we'll get justice for your partner too." Dawn was breaking as Michael stood on the safe house porch, watching the sun rise over the distant Boston skyline. Sarah joined him, 2 coffee cups in hand. "What happens now?" she asked, passing him a cup. "Grand jury, indictments, trials," he replied. "Years of legal battles." "I meant with you," Sarah clarified. "After this case." Michael considered the question. The past few days had changed everything. Exposed corruption in the system he'd sworn to uphold, but also shown him that justice was still possible, still worth fighting for. "I keep going," he said finally. "Keep doing the job, the right way. It's all any of us can do." Sarah nodded, understanding. "I've got a story to write. The biggest of my career. They'll try to discredit you, silence you." "Let them try," she replied with quiet determination. As they stood together watching the new day begin, Michael thought about Jake, about Caldwell, about all the people caught in Kingmaker's web. The system had failed them, but individual people willing to risk everything for truth, had eventually set things right. When justice fails, he realized, it falls to ordinary people to restore it. Not for glory or revenge, but because the alternative, surrender to corruption, was unthinkable. In that moment, despite everything they'd been through, Michael felt something he hadn't experienced since losing Jake: hope.